Iraq War. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, another Dan will be joined by Lieutenant Dan Choi. We'll be talking about the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy and have a debate over where Don't Ask, Don't Tell fits into the anti-war movement. Stay with us.
That's good.
Get your most closely kept personal thought, put it in the word doc with the password lock. Sock it deep in the raw with extraction precluded by the ludicrous length and the strength of a reputedly dictionary attack. Proof string of characters, this imperative to thwart all the disparages of privacy. The NSA and homeliness. You better PGP the raw because so far they ain't impressed. You better take the PGP and print the hex of it out. Scan that into a TIFF. Then if you secret doubt for your data, scramble up the order of the pixels with a one-time pad that describes the fun time had by the thick old boot-wearing stomper who danced to produce random claptrap, all the intervals in between which set in tandem with the stomps themselves begat a seed of math unguessable. Ain't no complaint about the cipher that's redressable. Best of all your secret, nothing extant could extract it. By 2025, a children speaking spell could crack it. You can't hide secrets from the future with math. You can try, but I bet that in the future they laugh at the half schemes and algorithms of mastering voice cryptographs in the past. You can't hide secrets from the future with math. You can try, but I bet that in the future they laugh at the half schemes and algorithms.
Secrets from the Future by MC Frontalot. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Before we move on, Juan, you had a very interesting piece, your column in the New York Daily News today.
Yes, well, there is a major movement now beginning to spread all across the United States in public education. Another effort to privatize some aspects of public education, which is called value-added models to measure teacher performance in Los Angeles and several other cities. And then in New York City now it has erupted into a major battle where the chancellor of the public school system attempted to publish today, or not to release to the press today, the names of more than 12,000 teachers and the test scores of their individual students, but according to what they call a value-added model. How much did that teacher improve the test scores of their children when they were in the teacher's class? It's a very controversial, very arcane statistical model that has been created largely by economists, which attempts to quantify exactly what a teacher's real impact on a child is. What the chancellor attempted to do is actually put the names of these teachers, which of course would have created the 10 best and the 10 worst teachers and all the press reports. The United Federation of Teachers went to court on it yesterday. A judge told the Department of Education, you can publish the data but not the names until we have a full hearing on this matter. So the school system decided to hold up on it. But the interesting thing that I uncovered is that the consultants who designed this particular report warned the school system, you should not use this to determine promotions, tenure, and evaluations of teachers, because obviously testing is only one aspect of what a teacher does in the classroom. There's all other kinds of things that a teacher does to improve a child's education, and it should not be used as a sole measure of whether a teacher is doing a good job or not. Despite his own consultants' warning, the chancellor went ahead and was about to release this and, in effect, possibly sully the reputations of a lot of teachers. It's really part of an overall attempt to an assault on public employees, because public employees are part of the only group yet that can still challenge firings of themselves, because they can go to arbitration and have an independent arbitrator determine whether a teacher has done a good job or not, or a policeman or a fireman. And this attempt now to have private industry come in, quantify and measure the work that public employees do is all part of the continuing privatization of government services and the attempt to bring, quote, business methods of accountability into public employment.
And this happened in Los Angeles.
It's happened in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Times had a series outing the best and the worst teachers according to this model, and within a few days, one of the teachers committed suicide in Los Angeles. So that this is a really controversial issue now that will spread across the nation. And New York, in the hearing that will be held in November, the judge will hold a hearing as to whether the city can do this, will become a flashpoint now, a major center for this debate.
And wouldn't it lead teachers to not want to have difficult students because they don't want to bring down their rating? They themselves could get fired because they tried to help.
What the consultant said, that if you attempted to gauge performance along this line, there would be a gaming of the system, as everyone would then try to make sure that if their children's test scores are publicized, that they don't have the most problematic kids in their classrooms. So it would really begin to bring a whole new distortion to the whole education process.
Well, we'll certainly continue to follow that as we move on now to another issue in the military. Juan?
Yes, well, the military's 17-year-old Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, which bans openly gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people from joining the U.S. military, is back on the books. But based on a new directive from Defense Secretary Robert Gates, only 5 senior military officials will be able to discharge service members for violating the policy. The change makes it harder for the military to remove openly gay troops. Defense Secretary Gates issued the memorandum Thursday authorizing only 5 senior officials to forcibly remove openly queer service members from the military. The decision had previously been in the hands of several more less senior military and civilian officials.
We'll host a debate on whether the queer rights movement should be focused on repealing the Don't Ask, Don't Tell law. But first, we go to Lieutenant Dan Choi for the latest news. He's one of the most vocal critics of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Earlier this week, he filed papers to re-enlist in the military after being discharged earlier this year. Dan Choi, it's nice to see you with us. I just saw you the day after you got your papers, your discharge papers.
That's right. We were at Netroots Nation
in Las Vegas.
We also met Harry Reid. We told him that he needs to do what he can to get rid of this policy and law. It's been a long year. It's been quite a roller coaster, and it is difficult to go on back to your chosen profession, your team, when your country discriminates against you openly and says that you cannot tell the truth about who you are, and you realize all the pain. This past year, I think I spent a lot of it realizing and acknowledging some of the pain of having to stay in the closet, even in war, even in times where you're serving your country in the most harrowing circumstances. You're not allowed to have the full measure of integrity. And I don't think most people ever realize how painful that is until they're finally able to stop and realize what went on in their lives. And dealing with some of those issues has not been easy. It hasn't been easy telling my parents that I'm gay. My dad's a Southern Baptist minister, and my parents immigrated from Korea. My mom was an orphan in the Korean War. It's not easy communicating in all different kinds of topics with them, but this one in particular hasn't been easy. But still, when we found last week that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was struck down by the courts, and as far as I know about American government, that's the judicial branch, that's a judiciary branch's constitutional mandate. If there is an unconstitutional law, they strike it down. And for 7 days, an entire week, there was no Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was dead. There were no enormous consequences, like Secretary Gates mentioned. Nobody quit, nobody protested, no homophobic harassment of gay soldiers happened. And so all the fear-mongering that happens in many parts of the country, in many political circles, surrounding the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, were just on their face, invalidated. And now that President Obama has asked for a stay on that ruling and the injunction, it was very saddening. It was hurtful to me and to people who were in the military that came out or wanted to have that full measure of integrity. It wasn't easy to join back up and go to that recruiting station. But when I realized that the real victims of Don't Ask, Don't Tell are not the gay soldiers that get kicked out. It's really all of America that's the victim of this policy. And when we signal to the rest of the world that our country, even though we say equal justice under the law, we're the land of the free and the home of the brave, that doesn't necessarily apply to some of our citizens.
So President Obama now, while he says he's against Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it's his government, it's his Justice Department that has appealed this decision.
That's right. And they don't need to. They fulfilled their mandate. The Department of Justice, all they needed to do was put on a court and trial. Many people, legal scholars, have shaken their heads, scratched their heads, wondering what this president is doing. His rhetoric indicates that he wants Don't Ask, Don't Tell repealed. He hasn't said that it's unconstitutional. Well, the courts have done that, and that's their job. President Obama, as a legal scholar, as a constitutional law professor, he should know better. The president has no obligation to defend with such a full-throated effort the discriminatory and unconstitutional policies. The courts have done the heavy lifting for him, and his policies, his desires to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell have essentially been done.